U.S. has declared war on Venezuela, and they did not see it coming. Operating a drug lab can be lucrative, but when the U.S. is involved, it's a whole different story. Venezuela's most feared cartel gang, the Tren de Aragua, has been operating a successful drug lab. But judgment came in May 2025, when a powerful U.S. airstrike shook the gang-held territory in a never-seen-before attack. What exactly is behind this mysterious strike? And is the U.S. prepared for the consequences? Join us as we unveil how the U.S. Navy dropped the hammer on Venezuela and wiped a cartel drug lab off the map. Trump has made cracking down on drug cartels a central goal of his administration as part of a wider effort to limit migration and secure the U.S. southern border. In recent months, they have already deployed at least 2 warships to help in border security efforts and drug trafficking. A few months back, the administration designated Mexico's Sinaloa cartel and other drug gangs, as well as Venezuelan criminal group Tren de Aragua, as global terrorist organizations, showing just how serious they are in wiping cartels off the face of the earth. Not long after the terrorist designation, Donald Trump authorized the Pentagon to carry out military operations against what his administration calls narco-terrorist networks in Latin America. On paper, it's a counter-narcotics policy. The directive allows the U.S. to target groups unilaterally labeled as both criminal and terrorist. Once that designation is made, the military can operate without the consent of the targeted country, a move that violates international law. In a region with a long history of U.S.-backed coups, covert wars, and destabilization campaigns, the risk of abuse isn't hypothetical, it's inevitable. While the order applies across Latin America, Venezuela stands at the top of the list. The Trump administration has accused President Nicolás Maduro's government of working with transnational cartels and has doubled the bounty on him to $50 million. That's double the bounty for Osama bin Laden. Just recently, the U.S. Air Force dropped the hammer on Iran. They've also had significant activities with the Mexican cartels and Yemen Houthis. Now, Venezuela has also received a huge blow. But before that, let's see who is behind the massive drug trafficking in Venezuela. Drug trafficking in Venezuela has been going on for a very long time, and it has been a major headache to world leaders. For years, the U.S. has accused high-ranking Venezuelan officials of drug trafficking. Today's accelerating drug trade is a symptom of the urgent need for cash inside Venezuela's crumbling hyperinflation economy and rampant corruption among the Maduro government's senior officials. Multiple officials said. Colombian officials who would rarely be quoted on the record also said that the drug smuggling has recently involved Colombian leftist guerrilla group ELN, working with the Maduro military. In 2017, former Venezuelan Vice President Tarek El Aissami was sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury for overseeing or partially owning narcotic shipments of over 1,000 kilograms from Venezuela on multiple occasions. In March, El Aissami, now Venezuela's Minister for Industry, was indicted in New York for facilitating drug trafficking. In May 2018, Diosdado Cabello, the leader of Venezuela's National Constituent Assembly and embattled President Nicolás Maduro's #2, was also sanctioned for being directly involved in narcotics trafficking activities. He has replied there is no evidence of his involvement in trafficking and said of sanctions against him in general. If there are persecuted politicians, those are the Venezuelan officials sanctioned by the U.S. You can keep your sanctions. Many other Venezuelan officials have faced similar U.S. accusations, which the Venezuelan government has outright rejected. They did not comment on this report despite several requests, but the U.S. still believes President Maduro is behind the main gang in the country. Venezuela's scramble for cash, owing to hyperinflation caused by economic mismanagement, has led to an increase in the risks taken by pilots. Another U.S. official said they were often former commercial airline pilots who used to fly passenger jets. 30 planes have roughly crashed in the last 3-month period, according to some reports, said one U.S. official. The scale of the operation was confirmed by a government official in the region who said the flights use around 50 clandestine runways in the northwestern region of Zulia in Venezuela. The drug cargo planes usually fly with the transponders that emit a signal identifying them to radar systems switched off. As the Venezuelan government has chosen to shield cartels, the U.S. acted. In May 2025, the U.S. stationed a Navy carrier group in the Caribbean to provide maritime surveillance, electronic warfare, as well as interdiction capabilities. FA-18s and EA-18s Growlers jam Venezuelan radar and communications, paving the way for the Air Force B-52 Stratofortress to deliver GBU-72B bunker-busting bombs on fortified cartel-run warehouses, hangars, and clandestine runways. As night fell over northwestern Venezuela, the Caribbean waters swayed with the gentle wind that signals the end of the day. The moon reflected off the water, hiding the movement of the U.S. naval force. From the USS Harry Truman, the FA-18s and EA-18s Growlers were ready to wreak havoc on the cartel's intelligence. The radar operators on the carrier had eyes on every vessel that may attempt to leave the Venezuelan shore, while P-8 Poseidons circled high above, scanning for unusual activity along the coastline. Away from the shore, the targets were already mapped. They were clandestine runways hidden in the dense forest of Zulia and a lab storing ridiculously large shipments of cocaine said to be under the control of the Tren de Aragua. The B-52 stationed in a nearby base received live feed from the Navy, exposing the location of these facilities, and it was time to act. The said lab was located beneath the surface, under thick layers of hardened concrete with reinforced steel surrounded by other facilities that could make one ignore the lab itself. But it's not so easy to escape the military intelligence of the U.S. forces. The combined forces stayed patient until 3 a.m. The first bomb dropped. The GPU-72B penetrated meters of reinforced concrete, treating hardened surfaces like child's play, and reaching the facilities in seconds. Inside the heart of these facilities, detonations rang out loud as explosions rocked the jungle canopies, sending smoke and ash into the night sky. Meanwhile, Navy pilots flew cover over the coast, intercepting any small aircraft attempting to flee the targeted zones. Their electronic warfare systems jammed cartel communications, leaving the traffickers blind and isolated. The synergy between air and sea was flawless. While bombers leveled the bunkers, the Navy ensured no reinforcements or escape routes were available. In only a few minutes, multiple cocaine shipments were destroyed, secret runways rendered unusable, and cartel operatives were in full retreat. In Washington, Pentagon officials monitored the operation closely. Satellite feeds and drone footage streamed live to the Situation Room. That was fast, but it was only the first strike. Naval intelligence identified additional storage sites inland, and the Air Force, supported by Navy drones, was ready to deploy precision munitions again. Having received the precise locations, the pilots of the FA-18s and EA-18s Growlers, who were already perfectly positioned to rain down hell, deployed more GPU-72B with surgical accuracy. The bombs ignored all the defenses of the facilities, treating them like sandcastles. If the cartel members had been informed that what took months for them to build would be razed down in a matter of minutes, they may have just scoffed at it, but it happened right before their eyes. Their years of hard work were reduced to ashes. With a bomber that powerful, the cartel abandoned any thoughts of retaliating against the joint forces of the Navy and Air Force. You need to save your life first to be able to fight anyway. By dawn, the region was already as silent as a graveyard. The jungle that served as cover for drug activities was now littered with the remnants of cartel operations. Venezuelan authorities had been caught completely off guard, and the nerve centers of Tren de Aragua were temporarily paralyzed. That brings us to the GPU-72B. Just how powerful is it? Developed under the Advanced 5,000 Pounds Warhead Program, the GBU-72B was recently tested by being dropped from an F-15E Strike Eagle at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. This new bomb is a significant evolution in U.S. bunker-busting capability, offering a powerful alternative between the 2,000 pounds GBU-31 JDAM and the massive 30,000 pounds GBU-57B massive ordnance penetrator, which only the B-2 Spirit can carry. Visually, the GBU-72B resembles an enlarged JDAM, but is fitted with long fins or strakes for stability and features a modified JDAM tail kit that includes a GPS-assisted inertial navigation system. Unlike the older laser-guided GBU-28B, the GBU-72's GPS-INS guidance allows it to operate in all weather conditions, including through cloud cover, dust, and smoke. This increases both its flexibility and the survivability of the aircraft deploying it, as the strike platform can remain at a safe distance. The bomb is designed to be compatible with both fighters and bombers, providing more mission versatility than larger bunker busters. The exact depth the GBU-72 can penetrate before detonation has not been officially disclosed. However, its program manager has stated that its lethality is expected to be significantly greater than that of older weapons like the GBU-28. While performance details of later GBU-28 models remain classified, the original versions could reportedly break through 150 feet of earth and more than 15 feet of reinforced concrete. Currently, the U.S. Air Force's B-1B Lancer and F-15E Strike Eagle are confirmed platforms capable of deploying the GBU-72B. The GBU-72B is expected to significantly outperform legacy weapons like the GBU-28B. Its enhanced capability and precision make it ideal for use against fixed, deeply buried military targets such as missile silos, command centers, and weapons depots, especially in future conflicts with countries like Iran or North Korea. The Air Force used advanced modeling and simulation in the development of the GBU-72B, enabling faster production of test-ready prototypes and allowing earlier involvement from operational units in the design and feedback process. With this new bomb, the U.S. gains a crucial mid-tier precision strike option capable of handling hardened threats without the logistical and strategic limitations of deploying the much larger MOP. Historically, the GBU-72 underwent extensive tests at Eglin Air Force Base. Ground tests involved detonating the bomb's warhead inside a barrier array to measure its blast effects. From July to October 2021, airborne tests were conducted to ensure the bomb could be safely released and guided using a modified tail kit originally designed for the smaller 2,000-pound JDAM. The flight test series began on July 23, 2021, with 3 drops planned by the 781st Test Squadron and executed by the 40th Flight Test Squadron. These tests confirmed that the modified JDAM tail kit could successfully guide the much heavier 5,000 weapon. The final flight of this initial phase took place on October 7, 2021, when an F-15E Strike Eagle released the GBU-72 over Eglin's test range. It's no wonder the U.S. employed this bomb to send a message to Venezuela. The operation was a warning that the U.S. had the capability, reach, and resolve to bring the fight to narco-terrorist networks, even in the heart of Venezuela. The Trump administration is not relenting, and according to an official, they have deployed 3 U.S. Aegis guided missile destroyers off the coast of Venezuela as part of an effort to address threats. President Donald Trump wants to use the military to go after Latin American drug gangs that have been designated as global terrorist organizations. The ships are the USS Gravely, USS Jason Dunham, and the USS Sampson. In total, about 4,000 sailors and Marines are expected to be committed to the Trump administration's efforts in the Southern Caribbean region. That U.S. official, who was speaking on the condition of anonymity, said the additional commitment of military assets in the broader region would include several P-8 spy planes, warships, and at least 1 attack submarine. The official said the process would be ongoing for several months, and the plan was for them to operate in international airspace and international waters. The naval assets can be used to not just carry out intelligence and surveillance operations, but also as a launching pad for targeted strikes if a decision is made, the official added. Venezuela's Ministry Communications did not immediately respond to a request for comment. However, without referring to the warships, President Nicolas Maduro said in an address that Venezuela will defend its seas, its skies, and its lands. He alluded to what he called the outlandish, bizarre threat of a declining empire. In fact, this isn't the first time the U.S. entangled itself in Venezuelan affairs. Aside from military warfare, there are other ways through which the U.S. is handling cartels. The United States Treasury Department has recently sanctioned the alleged leader of Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan gang that the administration of President Donald Trump has used as justification for its immigration crackdown. The Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control released a statement where it said Giovanni Vicente Mosquera Serrano, the alleged leader, was not only sanctioned but also indicted by the Department of Justice. According to unsealed court documents, Mosquera Serrano faces charges related to drug trafficking and terrorism. He was also added to the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list, and in addition to that, a $3 million reward was offered for information leading to his arrest or conviction. Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, accused Tren de Aragua, under Mosquera Serrano's leadership, of terrorizing U.S. communities and facilitating the flow of illicit narcotics into the country. In truth, this is the latest effort in the Trump administration's campaign to crack down on criminal activity that it claims is tied to the proliferation of foreign gangs and criminal networks in the U.S. Earlier this year, the Trump administration designated Tren de Aragua and other Latin American gangs as foreign terrorist organizations, a category more commonly used to describe international groups with violent political aims. But President Trump has used the threat of criminal networks based abroad to justify the use of emergency powers during his second term. To make it clearer, Donald Trump has claimed that Tren de Aragua is coordinating its U.S. activities with the government of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. That allegation was then used to justify the use of a rare wartime law, the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Trump leveraged the Alien Enemies Act as the legal basis for a large number of alleged gang members under the claim that the presence of groups like Tren de Aragua constituted a foreign invasion on U.S. soil. As a result of that, more than 200 people were sent to a maximum security prison in El Salvador, where many of them remain to this day. But people have spoken up against those deportations. They have drawn widespread criticism, along with a slew of legal challenges. Critics have said that the expedited deportations violated the immigrants' rights to due process. They also pointed out that many of the deported men did not have criminal records. In fact, the legal representatives for some of the men have vehemently argued their clients appear to have been imprisoned based on their tattoos and wardrobe choices. But these claims have been disputed by the Department of Homeland Security. President Trump is determined to uproot cartels from the United States and does not mind if he has to do so from the home country of the alleged cartels. That explains his missile stakes, hammer operations, and drone strikes from Mexico to Yemen, and now Venezuela. What do we really know about this feared Venezuela gang? The Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan gang that President Trump is targeting in his latest wave of deportations, formed in a rather unconventional way. It did not form in a room where men sat around a conference table to deliberate. The gang actually formed in a prison facility, but has now spread out its tentacles to become a multinational crime organization that has pulled off brazen attacks in places ranging from New York City to Santiago, Chile. That explains why Trump is so hard on them. Tren de Aragua, which is Spanish for the Train of Aragua, was founded in 2014 in the Tocaron prison in the central Venezuelan state of Aragua. It may have taken its name from a union of railroad workers building a train connection between Caracas and Aragua. The gang largely controlled the Tocaron prison, where again, something unconventional was going on. What was supposed to be a prison facility had a zoo, swimming pool, disco, restaurant, and bar. From behind bars, its leaders ordered robberies, kidnappings, and murders. Problems began for the gang when their country sank into its worst economic meltdown in history and crime became less lucrative. The Tren de Aragua had to branch out overseas. It recruited new gang members from among the 8 million Venezuelans who had fled the country's economic crisis. Initially, it established criminal cells in neighboring Colombia, Peru, and Chile, where it smuggled drugs and people and operated extortion rackets and prostitution rings. Tren de Aragua has been on the headline for major crimes, but its most notorious alleged crime was the 2024 killing of Ronald Ojeda, a former Venezuelan army officer who conspired against Nicolas Maduro, the country's authoritarian leader, then fled to Chile. Suspected gang members dressed as Chilean police officers abducted Ojeda from his apartment. Days later, his lifeless body was found stuffed in a suitcase and buried in cement. 2 Tren de Aragua members have been arrested in the case. Then the gang eventually expanded to the United States, which is home to about 700,000 Venezuelan migrants. Besides a wave of robberies, the Tren de Aragua is suspected in the shooting of 2 New York police officers and the killing of a former Venezuelan police officer in Florida. Gang members have been arrested in Pennsylvania, Florida, New York, Texas, and California. Before the Trump administration designated the Tren de Aragua as a foreign terrorist organization, the Biden administration had already labeled it as a transnational criminal organization. The U.S. campaign against Venezuelan cartels, especially the Tren de Aragua, is an escalation in the use of military tools against criminal networks abroad. And by labeling these groups as both terrorist and criminal organizations, the administration has given itself latitude to act through sanctions, deportations, or direct military strikes. Even though critics are arguing against the use of force, one thing is certain: the fight against narco-terrorism has entered a new phase, one where the United States is willing to project force far beyond its borders to dismantle cartels at their source. Thanks for watching. While you are still here, click on the link on your screen to check out another of our videos. See you there.